Hello and welcome to another episode of Grieving Voices. Today, my guest is Sujala Shastry, and she is here today to share a story of loss of her mother when she was a child, and just recently launched her own podcast called Discovering Journeys. And thank you so much for being here today. I know it's been a while since you have applied, and I'm excited to have you as a guest and for you to share your story. And so, what is, before we get into that, I just want people to get a little sense of who you are, where you're from, what do you do, all of that. So, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Victoria, for having me on Grieving Voices. I am Sujala. I'm basically from south of India, called a place called Bangalore, and I've been living in France for close to a decade now. Uh, so yeah, I have been an engineer before. Then I moved in here as an expat, leading my life, starting a family, and the life goes. Uh, then then I did my master's because I just wanted to come back to again go back to career and everything, but that didn't pan out very well. So got a job. I lost a job. Then I was like, okay, this is something was not right. So, and the idea of podcasting came, and after a year of learning things, again learning things, reinventing myself, because I know that my voice is going to be out in the world. So I was very uncomfortable, even though I loved the idea of podcast. So it took a while for me to be okay, be comfortable with it and to come. So very happy that I launched my podcast and happy to be on the other side of the as a guest as well. So that's been my recent one. And the point of uh, if I have to start sharing my story, I lost my mom when I was 11 years old, and uh, it was not something which anybody expects. It just happens, and she was ill, and I lost her to brain tumor. Uh, so it was really hard time because I didn't know how to navigate. I think my grief journey started with that, not knowing what to do. So my initial feelings were just numb and a dissociation. Maybe I was struggling with accepting the fact that she was no longer there. So I think those were the very initial things, and unfortunately, it stayed for a very long time with me because I did not understand I was grieving. I just thought I was not coping well. But now an adult me understands how young I was when I was 11 years old. But I did not understand that time. And I think I understand her very well why she couldn't understand. She was in a state of shock. And so, what happens in a grief when you lose a parent or somebody who is so close to you at such an young age is you don't know how to navigate, is one part. Second thing is you don't understand what's happening around you. Within you, around you, in life, everything freezes for a while. And for me, without having, I had a lot of people around me. They were all great providers. They took care of me. But emotionally, there was nobody to hold my hand and help me and tell me that it is okay. It is okay to whatever you're feeling, sadness, pain, heavy, you can name, because many people grief you can't define by one statement because everyone experiences in a completely separate ways. So I just wanted, I think, somebody to tell me that It's okay, whatever you're feeling, it will go through. And I think I needed that emotional safe space. So that is something I struggled with. And unfortunately, it went for too long, for 2 decades. I was in a survival mode of not understanding what's happening to me. Why am I angry? Why am I so sensitive? Why I am so lost? I couldn't connect with my friends. I couldn't connect with their, the likings, because I was just before the teenager, I lost my mom. So when you shift to a teenager, you try to know about yourself. I never had zeal for anything. So yeah, that took a very long time. And finally, after moving to France, I think I got time to be with myself and started to heal, wanted to be a better mother for my son. And I I think that's where I started. And then I started to understand a lot of things about myself. And yeah, here we are. So just to put it in a nutshell, this has been my grieving journey so far.
What do you think was the turning point, or was there something specific that helped you turn that page?
I think something was bothering me. It was bothering me. Something was not okay. Sometime because I couldn't. I felt I was very different from all of my friends, all of the society and everything. So a typical 30-year-old or a 20-year-old, I never matched that. So people were interested in, ambition, which party to wear, which clothes to wear. Those are all normal things and 17, 18-year-old or a 20-year-old does. But I was never interested in that. So I think I had started noticing it because I'm a very sensitive person, and I observe and I care a lot for people. So I started to notice it was there in my back of my mind. I think it was there. But as I had developed high functioning anxiety, I suppressed it. So I was always in the school mode, exam, then engineering, work, that, this. I deviated myself for a very long period of time because it was comfortable. Because I didn't know that I had to look inward, but that something inside was totally so messed up. And I think coming to France gave me that space. I think at that point, I think I was also like around 30. So it told me that, okay, you're very sensitive, you understand everybody. I think it's time to understand yourself a bit. So I didn't know that it would be a next few years would be so painful for me uh, to start the healing process. But yeah, that was the turning point. The pause helped me because I did not have anywhere to escape, you see.
So what was that like? Because you just described like you were like walking to this into this abyss of healing and you didn't know how painful it would be. What were the resources or the tools, or what were you doing during that time to support yourself in your healing?
I think first I had to go through the uncomfortable thing of sitting with the emotion. I think that was the most painful part because I allowed myself for the first time in my life to 100% feel what I missed about my mother, that my mother was dead. I had to tell it out loud. uh, Even though it looks very simple to many of them, but to the grievers understand that when you say it out loud, it hits you
Mm-hmm.
every single time. And I had to deal with that emotion, and this took time. And I also had to come face to face with the fact that I didn't know my mother well. I think that hurt me the most while in the initial time. Because 11 years, you're a kid, you just know very, very basic things. And because of being in survival mode for 20 years, I have lost memory of her for so many things. There was dissociation, then I have deep sense of loneliness and a brain fog as well. So, and panic attacks at times. So I think I had to, it was like an onion, like a big, big onion. And I had to open. And the thing was, I didn't know that how many layers were there. Now I can say, fast forward to now, I can laugh about it and everything. But yeah, that thing, I think that shook me quite a bit. That shook me quite a bit.
Reflecting back, do you feel like a lot of those emotions were coming back up when you became a parent?
Oh, definitely. 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 That is like, the nail on the head. There is no escape. There is absolutely no escape.
That was my experience too, because I lost my father when I was 8, and
Mm.
my mother was emotionally unavailable. And so, just similar experience, just flipped different roles. But um, yeah, it wasn't having kids. Like, they bring up every single insecurity that you have
Oh
about
my
yourself and
gosh.
all of your shadows and everything about you that you struggle with, right? They
Oh,
challenge just the core of who you think you are.
yes.
And but I'm curious because, like, for me, my journey was a lot of my personal development really started was when my youngest started kindergarten, and I had so much of my identity wrapped up in my kids, right? And that's when it really started for me. So self-help books became huge in my life at that time. Personal development programs. I was taking every personality quiz known to man just to help myself understand myself, figure
Ditto.
myself out, fix myself, get my shit together. And that went on for a good 5 years until I discovered grief recovery, which completely changed my life. So, is there anything in specifically for you that changed your life? A program, a person, certain therapy? What was it, do you think?
I think books helped
Books?
me a lot. Um, that helped me a lot. And on the internet, learning about joining a grief community. For a very brief period, I joined a community where grievers can just tell how they feel. And for the first time, I felt, oh, I was not really mad. I didn't have to be mad about myself for feeling something so normal in this line, you know. So I was like, okay, not bad. Okay, I am in, okay, this is my community. And even though we don't know each other, but the sense of loss that gave me comfort. Books made me understand and learning about why I became like this and how it is connected to my grief. And because I wasn't able to navigate it well, I did a lot of, developed a lot of consequences part of it. So this helped me in understanding me. And I think that told me that, okay, now I need to heal. Now I've understood myself. I've sat with it. Okay, yes, it's not good, but I cannot let another 20 years go by. So I think all of these things helped, and also many grieving interviews like this helped me. So sometimes it used to be overloaded for me as well because I'm an empath, so I absorb very easily. So So for me, it had to be breaks. So it has to be in at my own timeline. I had to take space, breathe, understand. So some it was like it was gradual for sure, but it was all the pawns were moving together. So if it was 1 month was understanding a concept of brain fog, I didn't know what was brain fog, but I had the symptom myself. So that took me understand. And then it just helped me that others also faced it. So that gave me comfort and that gave me somewhere a strength that, this was the thing. When you don't have anybody to navigate, you think you're not strong enough or you're not, you're not coping well, you're not good enough. But I did more than my capacity, and I'm so proud of that little girl of mine now. But unfortunately, that time I wasn't.
Mhm.
So I think that this understanding with various groups and moving gradually everything, then I said, okay, this is my whole mess. This is my understanding, and what can I do? So that is when I started the this one. So everything helped. I think everything helped. There is nothing, one thing which didn't help me because I took, it's like surviving again. It is like surviving to understand and surviving to come on the other side. So I took every material I possibly I can, book, paper, interviews, stories, journeys, lectures, YouTube, and TED Talks on grief, everything. I have done everything. There's nothing I have left page unturned. It's just that I didn't come out and speak to people. That's probably I didn't do it because I never felt safe, emotionally safe to do that because I felt around me people didn't understand what I was going through. And that happens. So apart from that, I did everything.
You had touched on being an empath, and I am too. And so I imagine as a young child, like for me, I needed a lot of sleep. Like I slept a lot. Was that your experience too?
I used to cry myself to sleep.
Same. I would hide to cry. I would
I
go in
would.
the under my bed and fall asleep crying because, or in the linen closet, the kitchen cupboard. Like I would hide to cry. Yeah.
I lived in a joint family, so I think the only time I could cry my heart out while I was crying. I mean,
Mm.
while I was before I go to sleep. So that's one time I cried. I think I've cried. I don't know. It's almost every day, you can say. Maybe the timings of my cry would vary, but yes, every day it was. Yeah, being an empath is not easy, and losing a parent is not easy. And then not having emotional support is also not easy. So it is like you're already your personality, your situation doesn't, give you a strong foundation to navigate.
What have you learned about energy, like your personal energy, energy work, energy healing? Has that been a component of your healing as an empath?
No, I have
Oh.
just learned that I didn't have a boundary as an empath. And now I have the boundary. Maybe we speak the same language, but in a different
Yeah.
terminology, maybe. But yes, has been my this one. So I understood why this whole emotional trauma led to people who were like, why was I tolerating them? Why was I tolerating their bossiness? Why was I tolerating their snappy attitude? But you do. I did. I
Mm-hmm.
did. I clearly did, and I am angry at myself that my friends group and everything was not so. They weren't there for me emotionally as well because that is how you attract.
Well, and you're
So
very selfish as a young person, right? Like you're just going to be selfish. It is all about you, right? But I think too when it comes to um being an empath, it's when you were speaking to the idea of tolerating how people are treating you, I think I think as an empath, we internalize, well, that, what does that say about me? I did something. And we almost own the response of other people
Yes.
because we immediately think it must be something about us.
Hmm. We accommodate them. We
Mhm.
give our own reason. And for me, at this point, I'm like, what was I thinking? But well, that was a part of me which is no longer there. So,
Which
so
brings a great segue into um, the Sujala before and Sujala
mm.
now. What are the key differences do you feel about you if people who knew you then, like, I imagine that you've had a lot of people fall away in your life just
Oh
as you've
yes,
grown.
they just automatically just drop like a
Mhm.
pack of cards. You go forward and they just drop. So the before Sujala was tolerating bossiness, snappiness, and crankiness of others. Was a people pleaser. Uh, was was always available for others. Always, whether they have been there for me or not, but I will always be there for them. They can just message and I'll be there, and they then people could walk over me with their decisions, with their attitude, or they could just use me as a punching bag, you know. Uh, and somebody who was so low, like have no confidence, no self-esteem. All of this was me. All of this was me. And now the Sujala, I think I have fallen in love with her for the first time in my life. I can't remember previous as a baby I had loved myself or not, because with the brain fog, it's that itself that's also gone. That memory is gone of me. But I think I fall in love with this version of myself who do not tolerate nonsense, who who is very caring, who is very understanding, but with boundaries. And I can recognize far off that you're being, all those attitude, the which doesn't come, you're just pushed away. So that one, and I am confidence wise, I am getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But how much I have come, I'm happy. But, yes, and then I now I have meaningful people in my life. So people who come into my life match my energy, and people who are not in my life, either they know the old version of Sujala and not the new version. And another interesting fact is they cannot the new version of Sujala. They're like, what happened to her? I'm like, I am no longer the old version, so this is new me, happy me, peaceful me. So no space for small mindedness. There's no space around me for that. The gate is closed, and you can't say whatever you want to my face, and I'll be quiet. I'm no longer that girl. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I'm really very proud of myself. And I feel so happy to say to anybody, because you asked, I feel so happy you asked me this question, because not many understand that it's like you have really, you have to really go through that whatever, that tunnel of, hardship, that uncomfortableness, that burning sensation, the sleepless nights, the anger, and the huge amount of cry. So, and you come outside of the another tunnel and you find yourself, the new you is just amazing. So yeah, anybody who haven't spoken to me in the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years, if they haven't connected to me face to face, apart from just a wish, and wish is not considered, I don't consider wishes as connection, it's just a wish. But if you haven't connected me as a person, you don't know me. I can't recognize myself.
Imagine if we all just went through like our Facebook friend list and just eliminated all the people that really don't know us. How many people, how many people would we actually have on our friends
One
list,
hand,
right?
one hand. One hand, two hands, lucky one hand, I think. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I think it was 5 4 5 years back. I just deleted myself from all the WhatsApp groups. School, engineering, some office groups, everything I was out. Apart from the family one, I have two or three, the family groups. Apart from that, none of the groups I'm associated with. I just deleted myself. And guess what? Nobody bothered. Maybe one or two of them asked, "Oh, what is it? You logged in." I said, I just didn't feel good being part of the group. So I removed myself. And that's it. No more questions asked, nothing else. And I'm happy with it. I don't expect them to understand me as well. So yeah, it is very surprising that out of all the groups you like delete yourself from, there were only, I can even count, there were only three people who contacted me out of so many that what happened. And that too, when I gave this answer, they said, they just said okay and just left it at that. So yeah, because sometimes people don't want to know more about you. That's what I realized. They're not as interesting that as I was there for them. They don't want to ask me how I am, what is it, and everything. And another surprising fact is in the initial part, oh, this is one thing I didn't mention during this. What helped me to change was blogging as well. So I opened one blog website called Medley Tales, and I just started to write letters to my mother, this one, and this helped me. And I published it on the WhatsApp group, on Instagram, on Facebook. But apart from, because for many people, it was a news. Not many of my friends knew that I had lost my mom. Yeah. So I was in school like till the grade 10. In one school, everybody knew because it happened during that time. So anybody who has known after the age of 15, I told only one or two, three people. That's it. Not many of them knew. And now I wonder why. And then I know, first of all, I wasn't comfortable. Second, people never gave me that emotional safe space for me to share it with them. And to the ones I shared, were taken aback, were so uncomfortable, and they don't want to talk. So
Mm-hmm.
many of my friends who, even though they know that I have lost my mom, they don't even know how I lost my mom. They don't ask that question. They're so uncomfortable.
Do you think this brings up a great point? And I actually have a note for myself. Do you think that's, and granted, I know in Western society that's very true, but in Indian culture, is that like what were the beliefs about grief and death and dying that you learned in your culture? And how is that, what do you recognize are the differences now being in France and knowing what you know now? Like, what are the cultural things that you have connected the dots with growing up and what you were taught and learned and things?
Hmm. No, that's a great question. I never thought about that, but I will try answering it. Uh, Back there, there's a support system in India. So since we are all like joint family and close knitted, we have a lot of people. They take care of your food, is your dress ready, you're going to school, everything is taken care of. But emotions are not discussed.
Mm,
It's wrapped under the carpet, shoved it far away because I think people don't know how to support a griever. They know how to be insensitive. They know how to make very, I don't know, rough or a rude comment, but they don't know how to be good. Uh, and during the course of the last 5, 6 years, I have spoken to a lot of people, interactions, sometime one off, just for 15, 20 minutes, just sharing. And what I have felt is, I think whole world were just not comfortable to speak about the dead person, especially to the person who are very close to them. It's a closed. I think this has been a very uniform aspect, what to my understanding is. And in India, what I felt was you have a good support system in terms of providing, taking care of. You don't have to cook meals. There are people who will do that stuff for you. That is a good part of that. But the emotional part, I think it was, I don't say it's low, it was zero. Let's be honest, it was zero. They will not talk about, nobody spoke about my mother in front of me.
Mm.
Nobody. Oh, we will make her sad. Oh, we will make her. But that's the whole point. They got it wrong.
Mhm.
I felt that only I was keeping my mother and everybody else were moving on. But that's not true. They were grieving in a different way, but it affected me more because it's my mother. But not speaking about your person doesn't reduce anything, but rather it increases. It increases the heaviness what I had to hold on to for so many years. It was not needed. Yes, we lost a person. All of us did. They were his. My mom had both of their parents. My dad, I, brothers. Such a close knit, big family, but we all lost somebody we love. And I don't know why we couldn't speak. And I think that really breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart to say that why it's not that others weren't grieving. It's not that my grandfather was not grieving. She was the only daughter among the boys. So she was cared. She was loved. But why you couldn't share it with her own daughter? There is nobody tell me that, oh, your mom used to do this. Yes, I would miss her, but I would have felt good that, oh, okay, she was like that. I would get,
You'd be learning about her.
yeah, exactly. And I suppress my emotions so much that all the bad and the good memories, everything is in a box. And sometimes, like out of the bloom, I just get it up. And I'm like, what? From where was this memory from? So I'm still in that process. I don't have a lot of memory, but it keeps coming up in a most unexpected way all the time. I think that is the most uncomfortable thing because sometimes you're outside and sometimes my son says something and something just strikes back. I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, that night, I'm like, okay, what was that memory? What was that memory? Now I'm curious because now I'm not in a suppression mode. I'm just the opposite. So I'm trying to dig deep, and sometimes it is half memory, and it hurts me. It hurts me to the core that I don't have a complete memory of that at least particular situation. Yeah. Yeah, I think I think I deviated. What was the question?
No, you answered it. And actually,
Okay.
you have a lot of pictures.
Few, yeah, some. For those, for that time, yes, it's quite a few. Now, it is not now that you can have 20, tuck, 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 and
Uh-huh,
20.
exactly.
But yeah, I do have the memories. I traveled with her. I do have memories of playing board games with her. Yeah, I do. Yeah, slowly it is. Yeah, it's there, but I'm happy. It's there.
You mentioned Well, and I was just going to say too, the art for my podcast is me on an island holding a megaphone, right? And I think that's when you were speaking, that's what I envisioned is like as a family, right? You're each putting yourselves on these grieving islands. But if only you would just talk about it, you could come together on the island and
Oh,
be your own community. And so, has that started to shift and change as you've been talking more and going through your process, or no?
no,
Oh,
because not everybody is still uncomfortable.
mhm.
They read my blog, they get emotional. They say you've written it very well, expressed it well. That's it.
Mm.
So I think it's difficult for them as well. And I think it's a generation, right? It's the whole generation just didn't know what to do with the emotions. And I am glad that there is a wave of change in terms of emotions in the last 5 6 years. So somehow it coincided with my healing journey and my age as well. But yeah, I think it's sad, but I think if after hearing on the podcast, maybe if somebody picks up the call and shares some memories about my mom, I think I will let you know. I think it is a win. It's a start. But slim chances. I don't have
Well,
any expectations.
but I think the most important thing too is I know the impact my healing has had on my parenting, which in
Mm,
turn has an impact on my the journey my children will take emotionally. And
yes.
And that's why I always say the greatest gift we can give our kids is our own healing, and
Mm,
why it's so important for us to dust and sweep our own doorstep first before thinking our kids are the problem, our kids have behavioral issues, our kids have emotional issues, what have you. Look in the mirror and
yes.
what is it that you are not looking at that is being projected onto your kids, or what are they emulating and learning from you?
Mm.
Because
Oh, you said it. Yeah.
we learn by the age of 3 75% of how to respond to life. The
Yeah.
rest comes by age 15, those
Mm.
formative teen years. So, and it's not to say once they hit 15 or 3 or 4 or 5 it's too late. It's
Mm-mm.
not. It's not
It's
too late. It took me 30 years, 3 decades to figure my shit out. Um,
Mm.
but how many times I've said to myself, man, I wish I would have discovered grief recovery sooner. I wish I would have, that's grief too. That's
Mm.
grief too.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
and you did touch on job loss, and I don't want to gloss over that because that's a loss too. Nobody has to die for us to grieve, right? And so
Yes.
that was a catapult for you to lean into your creative urge to do your podcast, but I'm sure at the time it was painful. Yeah.
Yes, you bought a very beautiful thing. They always think I grieve about my mom, but I have so many other points to grieve. I would really like to tell that. I had I also have to grieve about the girl I would be if my mom would be alive.
Yep. Yep. What
And
could have been?
yeah, what could have been? I grieve for that girl who could have been, and it just changed the trajectory of it because of one death, and that's my closest person. And second one is for all the lost years of me being in the survival mode. That's a grief too.
Mm-hmm.
I still grieve it, and it angers me. So yeah, it's like 20 years I was alive. Okay, but I lost those many years in coping the unknown. I was coping something, which I didn't even know I was coping. I didn't understand. So I have to, so people talk about always the grief. Your mom won't be there on your wedding day or when your kid is born. That is a given. But what people don't understand is all the in between days you grieve. There was this one instant where I think it choked me so much. My son was 2 years old. He had a very bad ear infection. My husband was down with viral flu. I had to take care of everything in the house. At that point, I still remember I just screamed in the night saying that why you had to die and make me struggle so much, because mentally, physically, it was exhausting for me. Do all the work, keep up everything, and no way to look. And I know one person whom I could have backed on blindly was my mother. And I haven't had her for 28 years. So I have to grieve for that as well. Not for the glossy part of, oh, she will miss my my son's birth birthdays, parties and everything. That's a given. That's a given. Everybody knows that. But they don't know that that feeling, what you have, it's every day in different ways. And it hits you like just like a sudden slap, put, and you're like, what? Oh my God. You grieve again that night. So it's like, it is so much. And this also makes me feel I have never heard my mom on the phone. It hurts because I lost her in 1997. The mobile phones were not in our hands yet. And it was only landline. And I stayed pretty much with my mom, so never had a chance to. I was not college or anything, so I've never heard my mom's voice over a phone. I don't have a call which says Amma calling. I don't have it. I have never experienced that to this one, so I grieve. I can't take a selfie with her. You grieve. So there are so many different ways you grieve that it sometimes the pain brings you to numbness. You stop thinking, you stop missing, you stop feeling. And sometimes your body and your mind can't take it, just can't take it. It goes to that blank state. And I just like, it's like a big wave has hit me, and I have to just stand there, allow the big wave to pass, however long that is. Because sometimes it's just that. I think that this part, people who haven't grieved don't understand.
Or allow themselves to grieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What gives you hope for your future?
It's just that I allow my son and people around me to be themselves. And in one of my therapy session, I was called the black sheep of the family because nobody speaks emotionally in my family like the way I do. So in at my therapy, at one point, so he asked me this. He's like, you know what you're called? I said, I don't know. You're the black sheep of the family. I'm like, huh? What? That was the first time I got even introduced to that word, and he explained to me what it is, and I was like, oh, okay. So I think I'm happy that I had to bear all these things, but I'm happy that I can be an example, if not for many, at least for my son, and to be who he wants to be, how he wants to be. And I am his emotional safe space, no matter what. And I give this to all my closest people who are my people. And I feel this is my, like, personally, how I can change. This gives me hope that I am the change in my situation. Secondly, is I started this podcast Um, I lost the job and I wasn't ready to relocate because for me, family comes first. So I got a lot of opportunities to move to Netherlands, Germany, but I can't. I can't travel back and forth. So I said no to many of the offers. And because family comes first to me, no matter what. Uh, so I already had this idea of starting a podcast, but I thought after working for a while, I'll start. But then I think God redirected me to earlier. So I started it. So the whole concept of podcast is also to just to listen to other people journey. That's it. Because if nothing I can be in this world, I just want to be, I just want for that 1 hour the other person feels that somebody listened to me. I think that is all I would like to give it to that person, and in a way if it reflects to the huge audience, so let it be. I think somewhere we have lost the capability to listen to other people emotions just because it gives us makes us feel uncomfortable. So that is my little part of, and I want to build a community over it. And I can't even say I have begun. It's just that I have made up a mind. I've just opened the door. So let's see where it goes. So these are the things. And thirdly, when I see other people, there are so many podcasts like yourself and like so many people who are there to listen. Like it's very warming to me that you asked the versus old versus new. Nobody had asked me that question. So thank you for that. So it just feels that somewhere as a community we are going. Somewhere. Maybe it's a small, but I always believe a change will be small. It takes years to see what wave can it bring about. So yeah, that gives me hope. So these are the three different areas I feel little hopeful.
And what would you say your grief has taught you?
That it's so lonely.
But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but it was. So whenever somebody says grief, I think it's a scar, it's a trauma I still carry. So I still feel lonely about it. That is how I feel. But what it has made me learn is you can also cherish people who are dead. In a
And
way,
you can build your own community. You can build the
yes,
community that you need.
yes. So it doesn't have to be doom and gloom, grief. You can cherish it. You can cherish a person, personality, or something they loved, or something you share, something. You can cherish it. That's what the healing part of the grief has taught me that yes, it is painful. Nobody says it is easy. It's not that all. But once you cross that path of accepting and feeling the pain, you can cherish the person.
What is one of your cherished memories of your mother?
Mm. One of my cherished, I think, never left me alone. She was always present with me. Like whether I was doing my schoolwork or playing with her board games, she was always present with me when she was around me. As I said, I was in a joint family. I lived along with 11 other people in the house.
Wow.
So so whichever little bit time I got with her after school and over the weekends, she used to be completely present with me. And I think this is something I I think I feel her, so that her presence makes me feel So when this, I think why now I understand why it was so painful for me because her presence was so comforting and warm. So yeah, I think playing board games with her was the most. I think all the board games, the classic board games, I learned from her, and we used to always go for haircuts together. She used to get hers, I used to get mine regularly. Second and third one was. Hmm, I think I used to go with her for everything. Even she has to buy a small thing in the next road, I used to run with her all the time. So I think these are the few moments I think which comes to my mind currently all the time.
I think one of the lessons that you've shared without sharing it as a lesson is that you can be completely surrounded by many people who love you and yet still feel completely alone.
Ah, yes.
And that the one key differentiator that we have to those we are in relationship with is emotional connection.
Yes.
And had you maybe felt that, your grief journey would have maybe taken a different path.
Yes, definitely. I wouldn't be stuck in a survival mode for sure. I, at,
Is,
at least that would have changed for
is all of
sure.
your family still in India?
Yes.
Do you see them often, or
Yearly, I go yearly. Yeah. I
your
meet
brothers?
them.
You mentioned you had
No,
brothers. Oh,
no, I'm the only kid. I have
oh, the
cousins.
only child. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the only child.
See, and that's another aspect too. It's like one thing I've learned in doing my podcast and just the importance of siblings is that they kind of fill the gaps of your childhood
Hmm.
for you, especially if
Yeah.
you have an older sibling. And I never really looked at my siblings in that way, but it's a relationship that is so unique. They're the
Mm.
people that know you in a way that nobody else does. Do you grieve not having a sibling? Have you ever thought about it really?
I have. I think I miss having a sibling, but I know why my parents couldn't have a sibling because of my mom's health condition.
Mm,
So, yeah. So that for me, in my case, at least it's an understanding part.
hmm.
Yeah. This strangely comes to the point. I haven't shared it with many people. She was diagnosed brain tumor at the beginning when I was, I think, before her pregnancy, just before her pregnancy or during the pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
So she was a warrior. She beat the tumor and she was with me for 11 years, but it bounced back. The tumor bounced back. And the second time, she couldn't survive it.
Mm. What was her name?
Manchala.
Angela?
Yeah,
That's a pretty name.
thank you.
What is one tip that you would give a hurting heart today?
Whom? Sorry, whom?
A hurting heart.
A hurting heart. If somebody gives you the emotional space, don't feel reluctant or odd to take it.
Mm, that's good
Please do.
advice.
Please do take it. You can pay it forward, but please do take it. If somebody is giving. And secondly, if there is nobody, try to be self aware of what you're feeling and try to find books or online help, something which you can do with your own capability. Don't don't prolong. It does no good to you. Forget about others. It just doesn't do good to you.
That's very good advice. Is there anything else you would like to share that you don't feel you got to?
No, I think I've shared so many bits of it. You have answered. I mean, you have questioned me so beautifully that I have shared few of the things which I haven't shared so far with. I don't know with many of them. Maybe my husband I have shared, but not not to anybody else.
I feel honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
for
you so
sharing
much.
on my podcast your story. And I feel like even through cultural differences, grief is the one thing that unites us all. It doesn't matter,
Yes.
it doesn't discriminate. And we all grow up learning these unhelpful um, and almost hurtful ways to cope and how to grieve. We do it very poorly. And that's why my program is called Do Grief Differently. It's time we do grief differently. And so thank you so much for sharing your insights and what you've learned on your path and for starting your podcast, because the more voices that get on the mission that is similar to mine, which is changing the conversation around grief, talking about it like we talk about the weather, um, the more that do that, the better off our next generations will be. So
Yeah,
thank you.
and thank you so much for. I never thought I would share so many things, but you were so warm, and your questions made me think and dug those memories out of me. So, thanks to you, and thank you for, I really enjoyed speaking with you. And as you say, I strongly believe the how we support the griever and how we speak about grief needs to change, and there is no doubt about it. And I'm happy that somewhere you and me are trying to bring about a change in our own little ways. So thank you for giving me this space.
You're welcome. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you and listen to your podcast?
Yeah, I'm on, it is called Discovering Journeys, and you can find it on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, on Amazon. And then you can connect with me on Instagram, on FB, on LinkedIn. I'm there on pretty much everything.
And
And
I'll,
I'll share the links with you.
yes, and I will put those in the show notes. So thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Have a blessed rest of 2024 as we record this. It will be published in 2025. So happy early new year to you and the holidays. I wish you a great end of 2024. And remember, when you unleash your heart, you unleash your life. Much love.